Hello everyone, welcome to our showcase presenting the good life in North Kensington. My name is Mesa and this is my co-host Aisha, and we'll be talking about our research program that we've been participating in, which is a collaboration between the Institute of Global Prosperity at UCL, the University of Manchester and the Westway Trust.
So we're going to be your hosts for this evening, and we're really excited to share our findings with you. Before we get into our personal research, we're going to pass over to Saffron and Connie, and they're going to talk to you about the power of citizen social science.
Hi everyone, really fantastic to see so many of you here despite the really awful weather. Welcome to the Good Life North Kensington Showcase. It's such an amazing privilege to be up here today and be able to co-host the amazing work that this team has done over the last 3 months. So my name is Connie Smith. I'm the co-lead of this project, together with my colleagues Saffron Woodcraft, Hannah Sender, and Soraya Mia. The Good Life North Kensington is a 3-month project that has brought together a team of local residents investigating issues that matter to them and to their communities. It's a collaboration between the UCL Citizen Science Academy, the University of Manchester, and the Westway Trust. It's part of a larger project that I've been leading in this area over the past 4 years, which has been exploring neighbourhood change and urban features in the aftermath of housing tragedy. Since 2017, this neighbourhood has obviously been through a huge amount, and there's still a really long way to go before justice is delivered. This project tries to approach these issues in the larger context of debates about urban transformation, spatial inequality, and what just, safe, and prosperous urban futures might look like. There's quite rightly a lot of attention on what failed and why in the run-up to 2017, but this project has begun from a different starting point. Instead of seeing it as a place of failure, it begins instead from thinking about histories of community and solidarity and how these are shaped by physical places in which we make our homes. It's vitally important also to think about the longer histories that have shaped this area, from interventions such as the Westway that's running right over our heads, to the histories of housing activism and action in Notting Hill, Frestonia, and elsewhere. There's many different strands to this project and the way it's taken shape over the past 4 years. And some are more focused on neighbourhood design and future making, some on political action, as well as work like you'll hear about today, which is more focused on community participation. But cross-cutting all of this is a central theme about amplifying community voices and making sure those voices get heard in ways that really count. Citizen-led research is one way to do this, encouraging people to develop new skills, but just as importantly, to recognise that their lived experience is also a form of expert knowledge that is really needed and which can really make a difference. So I'm now going to hand over to Saffron Woodcraft, who's going to say a bit more about the Citizen Science Academy and the work she's been doing in that area. Thank you.
So good evening, everybody. Like Connie, I am super excited to be here, and it's such a privilege, and it's been such joy to work with this cohort of citizen scientists. So my name is Dr Woodcraft. I'm head of UCL Citizen Science Academy, and the Citizen Science Academy provides community-based and practice-led research training that's intended to give people the skills and the confidence and the opportunities to carry out research in their own neighbourhoods about the issues that matter to them, to their lives and to their livelihoods. And as Connie said, the Citizen Science Academy is about really bringing the expert knowledge and lived experience of residents into the research process. So our goal at the Citizen Science Academy is to make research as inclusive as possible, and to put people in control of research and creating the knowledge that is used to make or to influence decisions that affect their lives and their livelihoods. So this is a really important part of the work that we're doing, and that you're going to hear about this evening. So I just wanted to say something about this term, citizen science, because you're going to hear it a lot. this evening. So what is citizen science? You might have heard in the news over the last couple of weeks about the big butterfly count. I don't know if anyone heard about that on the BBC. It's got quite a lot of coverage. The big butterfly count is a conventional citizen science project. It's where members of the public are invited by scientists to take part in scientific research. And often the role of citizen scientists in a project like this is to go out and count or map or collect data that then is given to scientists and is used in research. What we're doing with the Citizen Science Academy is something different. So we are talking about citizen social science. So this is where citizen scientists, like the team you'll hear from this evening, are conducting research using social research methods about really complicated social or socio-economic questions, and using that new knowledge, using those new insights to shape social action in their neighbourhoods, or to work with decision makers, to work with policy makers, to bring local voices into, to kind of air local voices and lived experiences. So it's very much about community empowerment and trying to change the relationship between universities, who are often about driving research agendas, and policymakers, who are often about kind of taking that evidence and saying, no, the lived experience of residents, the lived experience of community members is as valuable and as important, if not more important, as a source of evidence. So what you're going to hear about tonight is the work that the citizen scientists have been doing. Just quickly, I'm going to say a few words about how the Academy runs our courses. So our training courses are always community-based. We work with a cohort of local residents, and they're introduced into research and a range of different research methods, and then they work to develop their own research projects, and we support them through that process. So some of the research methods that this team have been learning about are, that you'll be hearing about tonight, are things like how to carry out a qualitative interview, how to use creative mapping, tools and techniques, how to carry out a walking ethnography, which is a form of observation. Next slide, please. So this training has taken place over a 3-month period. And one of the things the Citizen Science Academy does is offer the citizen scientists that have been through the training program an opportunity to submit a portfolio of work and receive a citizen science certificate that recognizes the skills and competencies that they've acquired during this training process. That's a really quick intro into the way that the Academy works. I just wanted to say one thing before I hand over to the team, which is about how the Academy is working across London. So there are projects similar to this one that are taking place in East London with local authorities such as Camden, with voluntary sector organisations and different public agencies. And what we're trying to do with this way of working is really embed this idea that citizen science and residents developing research and knowledge based on their own lived experience is something that should be brought into decision-making frames, into policy-making, into politics, in a kind of systematic way. So the cohort that you're going to hear from tonight are part of a much kind of, or not say a much bigger, a growing kind of movement of citizen social scientists in London. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy this evening.
Thank you, Saffron and Connie, for that. So now we're going to get into our individual research findings and our experience on this project. So our key findings explored 3 main themes, and this was regeneration, personal growth, and mental health. So I'm now going to introduce you guys to our citizen social scientists, Zara and Paula, and they focused on regeneration and its impacts in the West and North Kensington area. So Zara's going to tell you more about her research now.
Hi, my name is Zara, and my research focused on Warnington Green, where I have lived for the last 20 years. So Warnington Green is a space just off of Ladbroke Grove, which connects to Goulburn and Portobello Market. Here you can see a few pictures of what's currently happening. As part of Warnington Green Square, we're currently going through a regeneration. This regeneration is being ran by the Housing Association Peabody, and is not yet planning to be anywhere in the late construction until about 2026. As part of this regeneration, young adults, 18 plus, have been given the opportunity to move out separately from their families. This means that they get on the housing ladder way earlier than what you would assume, which is really important, and it's a really, really unique thing that we're being offered because of how hard it is in London at the moment with private rents and to get on the housing property so early. I am one of those young residents who will be going through this, and as part of my rehousing, I thought it would be best to focus on this category in the regeneration specifically. As part of my research, I used three research methods. The first thing I wanted to find out was how much information is there available about this regeneration in general, but also what's being offered to the young adults. I found out so much stuff about the regeneration, the proposals, the construction, all of those things in planning, but absolutely no information about what was being specifically offered to the young adults and their unique position in this. I also found no information about the key people to talk to and where I could gain that information from. During this time, I used walking ethnographies to refer to what was happening online, but also what was happening in real life, what I could see out of my window. I walked around the square at the beginning of my research and at the end of my research and really looked at what the vision was that they were showing online. Like you can see a few of these pictures here compared to the reality of living in the regeneration, and really started to reflect on my experience living in the square, how much I really did miss and remembered what it looked like in the beginning, what is currently happening and how much construction can actually change a neighborhood so quickly, but also what they were planning for the future and how much I really didn't have a voice and wasn't using my voice in that process. As part of this, I also did interviews. I planned to interview young adults that had just moved into the new builds. I wanted to understand what they were going through and how they had been experiencing the rehousing process getting into their new flats. I could not get in touch with any of these young adults during this process. However, I was able to interview a large amount of key members in this process, from the housing associations to the community groups that were a part of the regeneration and had big roles to play in the regeneration. From this, I found three things. There is a lot of things available. There are a lot of schemes, there are a lot of support systems available to help the young adults in their rehousing process. Peabody are offering jobs to young adults to help them in the process. They have a community organization to help them with that rehousing process, but it's really inaccessible. If you don't know about it, you can't access it, and that's really the problem. As with this, Peabody know about this. They know that they're lacking in getting their information to the young adults and providing that kind of knowledge, but they're having a hard time implementing it into the community. Finally, the last thing that I found is that young adults and young people really aren't invested in their community and weren't actually raising their voices in the community. They weren't providing and coming to the spaces where those talks were being had. There was loads of stuff happening about the regeneration, but they weren't going to them, they weren't accessing them, and so therefore they didn't really know what was happening in regards to the unique offer that they were having until they were being offered it. This means that they were having a really hard time planning for the future. I found a key thing is that maybe the information could be best if they get it a little bit earlier. So 16-year-olds plus, even though they're not being offered the to move yet. They will be in the future, and therefore it allows them to plan for that ahead of it and then access the things that they need so that by 18 they are aware of what they're being offered and then can implement what they can use. From this, I figured 3 different resources that would be best effective to access the young people and the young adults in this area. We have newsletters for the residents and a lot of community-led meetings and resident fun days, but they need to be more focused towards the young adults and what they're being offered. Maybe a day that is specifically for them to understand what their position is and where they hold, but also for their support systems to learn more about what's going to happen to them and how they will be moved separately. And maybe an online website which is like our first protocol as a young adult, to go and find out exactly where we are in the regeneration, who is the key people to talk to, and what schemes are available to help us make that decision to be rehoused separately. Overall, we are the future of the regeneration. We are the ones who are going to be impacted by what the future regeneration looks like, and we need to have a more say in it. As a young adult, we're going to be the one raising our kids in that area and want to know what's happening with the new builds and the houses, and we should have more say in that and therefore get more involved in the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zara, for giving us an insight into the area. I'd now like to introduce Ola, who will be talking about regeneration in West Kensington.
Hello everybody, my name is Paula. My research project covered West Kensington, because it's the area that I live in, and I entitled it New Developments for Whom. It started off when I noticed a development that didn't seem to be progressing, and I wanted to find out why that was. There was some initial consultation information, but no follow-up. But I noticed a development in the Earls Court area which seemed to be progressing and involving the community, so I wanted to follow both developments up. So that's the entry one, and I said Astor one, which is the one that I found was actually creating lots of opportunities for the community. In terms of my research methods, I walked around both developments. I interviewed some professional workers, community workers and residents, and also attended a local fete in the new development to have some informal conversations with those community members. And my findings were that community was so important to both areas, but more so to the residents. And when I interviewed the professional workers, they spoke about how they could support the community in their needs, activities, and creating a space for them to come together, to make friends, and to really understand who's there in the community. Next slide, please. So basically, my main takeaway from all this work was that it's really important to have meaningful consultation. When I did the research into both developments, both areas had previous developers who hadn't really engaged the community, and they both lost the contracts. So the new developers in the Earls Court area have really taken on board how it's really important to involve the community, and they're continuing to do that. As I said, the other development, I'm still waiting to hear from them in terms of following that up, and I will keep trying because I want to understand how they can progress that area, because it's really important to me. I grew up in the area, and it's really sad to see that there doesn't seem to be anything that's going on. So thank you for listening, and if you've got any questions, you can ask me later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paula and Zara, for sharing your findings. That was really interesting to hear. So now we're going to hear from Coco and Sarah, and they're speaking about personal growth and its importance in the community. So, Coco.
Hello, my name is Coco Jean-Baptiste, and this is my project, Living Authentically, which is a piece about North Kensington's creatives and the good life, looking into what ingredients play a part in achieving the good life as a creative. The reason why I chose this topic is because I myself am a creative, and I wanted to know how I could live the good life here in North Ken. Next slide, please. Everything is hidden. I started my research by trying to find out what creative spaces there were. First, I couldn't think of any, so then I went onto Google Maps, typed in studios, galleries, bookstores, and more. This then led me on to doing walking ethnographies, where I walked around Labatt Grove, Goulburn Road, Portobello, and Notting Hill. Through doing the walk, I realized I had passed most of the places pretty much every day. Obvious, but yet still hidden, disengaged from my life. Next slide, please. Art in North Ken. I continued the walk and then discovered there was a difference in creativity in the area. As you can see here, on the left side, there's indoor, and on the outside, there's outdoor. The indoor spaces are mainly galleries. I'd walked into a few and I'd asked, whose art did they showcase? They said art from all over, including globally, whereas art on the right-hand side was more locals. As you see, there's the 150 years of Portobello, African and Caribbean flag project over there, murals for the Windrush, graffiti, the Grenfell truck, and so on. Next, please. My main findings. There are opportunities for all ages. For young people, there's avenues and still pans for the music creatives. And then for all, there's the Kensington and Chelsea Art Grant Scheme, where if you go and you apply for funding, they can help you pursue your creative passion. As Joey says, it's about wanting to put yourself out there. Putting in the work, the challenge is putting in the work to network and trying to push for your work, applying for the funding and more. Opportunities are available, but can be hidden. Despite the challenges, the people of North Ken still manage to put their art on the streets of North Kensington, creating their own opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Coco, for telling us what life is like in North Kensington. I would now like to introduce Sarah, who will be talking about life opportunities in the area.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and the topic of my research is unlocking your potential. So my research topic was focused on skills and learning opportunities in North Kensington, and here there's a picture of an example of a skills and learning opportunity centre called Nova, which shows any opportunities members of the community might want to take part in, such as educational learning classes or maybe even cooking classes. And these all contribute to how members of the community can use skills and learning opportunities to have a good life in North Kensington. So going into my research methods first, I began using walking ethnographies, and this is where I had taken walks around North Kensington and observed different places to see how community centres had advertised and publicised their skills and learning opportunities. I had taken note of these and also conducted some photo elicitations where I had taken photos and saved them for later analysis as to how members of the community would be finding these skills and learning opportunities, where they would be, and whether there was contact information to provide more details about these. I later conducted a few interviews, and this included a mixture of key informants, such as the Westway and different stakeholders, as well as members of the community who had shared their experiences of skills and learning opportunities in North Kensington. So going on to the research findings, I ultimately found that skills and learning opportunities do have a positive effect on the good life in North Kensington. And I also had identified a few barriers worth investigating with regards to accessibility issues. So for example, time and location and how this could act as a barrier to accessing any opportunities. So for example, whether they were a student or a member of the community who had a job, would they be able to make it to a specific location or a specific time? There's also digital and face-to-face. So some people of the younger generation most likely prefer digital means of accessing a course, whereas maybe the elderly would prefer face-to-face accessibility. Whilst researching these barriers, I had found that centres had in fact considered these and had done a great job of them. However, there was an issue of advertising, so members of the community had not in fact been aware of where these opportunities were or the fact that they were even available to begin with. There's also the issue of funding. So whilst the North Kensington community does in fact have a lot of funding, it's not really being put to use correctly. So there's an issue of different community centres funding for the same course. However, because nobody knows about it, the funding is going to waste, considering nobody's really there to access the materials. There's also a clear disparity of wealth in the community. So a participant has mentioned that it feels like two separate worlds. So there's the richer part of the area, which have a lot of opportunities, as opposed to the poorer part who feel like they don't live in the same area as their cohorts. And there's also the financial means. So I have found that people were more concerned about short-term financial issues, such as the cost of living crisis and bills to pay, as opposed to any skills and learning opportunities that they could deal with in the future and put to use to help with these financial issues in the future. So I've got a quotation here of a participant mentioning that RBKC is, to them, a divided borough with lots of potential and funding, and if this is considered properly, it could have a lot of potential and impact their lives in a positive way. So there's pictures here, for example, of this is a GP in Goulburn Road, and it provides pictures of opportunities for skills and learning that people can walk by and see and access. So the main takeaways are, so ultimately skills and learning opportunities, according to my interviewees, do in fact result in it leads to a good life. However, there does need to be better service advertising to address the urgent financial issues. So for example, this is a leaflet from the Westway of cost of living crisis clinic, and it helps members of the community manage their finances to focus on living the good life. However, not that many people know about it, so it's not really helpful to everybody. Also, there needs to be better communication between stakeholders and centres, because as I mentioned before, it's not really useful if different centres have the same courses and nobody's accessing them and going to different ones. So I've got a quote here, freedom of self-expression. This was mentioned by a stakeholder in charge of art, skills and learnings, and she mentioned that art is a form of expressing yourself and creating intimate relationships.
Thank you, Coco and Sarah. I really resonate being a resident in this community for the past 22 years. Aisha and I will now talk about the significance of mental health in the area, as that was the focus of our research. So I'll now take it over to Aisha.
Hello, everyone. So my research was on young adults' mental health in North Kensington. So being a young adult myself, I know that the ages between 18 to 24 can be a really challenging and confusing time. It can be easy to neglect your mental health once you're thinking about all of these distinct challenges. And the transition into adulthood can be really overwhelming when you don't have the support of teachers and school that you used to have before. And especially navigating the public health system alone can be really frightening. So I wanted to explore the availability and the accessibility of mental health resources available to young adults in North Kensington. So before I went into doing interviews, I did a walking ethnography around the area, and I have some photos that I took over here. So I wanted to consider how it felt as a young adult walking into these spaces, and if they were comfortable or if it was like unnerving. So going there, I considered the accessibility and the hospitality as well. And I felt that the environments were really comfortable and welcoming. When I went, people would greet me, people would smile at me. So even though it's a frightening thing, it did feel comfortable, which was a positive there. I think I should mention how I only found these places when I actually did research. And so unless you're actively searching for these spaces, sometimes they don't pop out to you automatically. So, next slide. I went on to my interviews where I spoke to young adults themselves and I spoke to some mental health professionals in this area. So my main finding was availability versus awareness. So in this area, as we know, there is a lot of funding and there is actually an abundance of general mental health resources. However, the main issue is awareness again. Speaking to young adults, it made me realize that they don't actually know where they can go to seek help. A lot of the people I spoke to, when I asked them, have you ever used any of these resources, or can you name any off the top of your head, a lot of them didn't know any. And someone said the NHS is so overworked that mental health for young adults isn't really a priority. And so I feel like young people have this misconception. They have these ideas that there's long waiting lists, that you need to suffer from an extreme mental health problem to get help, but that obviously isn't the case. When I spoke to the professionals in this area, I was really surprised to find that there's actually basically no waiting lists in this area, and there's a lot of stuff available. There's a lot of classes, there's a lot of counseling sessions, there's an abundance of resources, and so the problem is putting the funding into them, but people not actually using them. So they are not that valuable if people aren't accessing them. Next slide, please. So the final question I asked all my participants was if they could change or improve one thing related to young adults' mental health support in the area, what would it be? So we discussed a range of initiatives and programs, and we got some really interesting ideas. So as well as raising awareness using social media, brochures, I think young adults really wanted things that were exclusive to them. Being 18 to 24, you don't have the children's resources anymore, so you're kind of shoved into the space of adults, and sometimes it can be unnerving going to adult spaces, and so they really wanted things that were exclusive to them. We spoke a lot about wanting to stay connected, but having sort of flexible and non-committal and casual things rather than walking into a center that says mental health help here. They want something a little bit easier to get into, so the first step before sort of moving on to therapies and things. So my main takeaway is that I think this borough is very unique because there is actually a lot of availability of these resources, and the problem is I think stakeholders don't listen to the people, and they sort of invest in these resources, but they don't invest in promoting them, and they don't invest in giving them directly to the young people. So I think there needs to be a focus on utilizing these resources by letting young people know about them. And I think the common theme is that they don't communicate with the citizens, and so that's what's useful about doing this citizen science, is that they can hear directly from the young adults and know what resources that they actually want. Thank you for listening. So I'm going to pass over now to Mesa, and she did her research on mental health in Muslim women.
Hi everyone. So for my research project, I decided to explore mental health in the Muslim women community here in North Kensington. There are just under 20,000 Muslims living in the borough, and Muslim women make up a fairly large proportion of North Kensington's population itself. Mental health, unfortunately, in many communities is a really stigmatized and taboo topic to talk about. The impacts of the Grenfell fire, for example, which really hit hard in our community, really left the Muslim community heartbroken and devastated. 70% of the residents of the tower and 54% of those who passed away were Muslims. This really goes to show how expansive this network of grief is here in a community that stigmatizes mental health and sees it as a weakness. So, through my project, I set out to explore what services there are available for Muslim women to go to, if there are enough, and how they help the Muslim community, specifically Muslim women. So I conducted several interviews with professionals working in the mental health space here, and Muslim women themselves who of different age groups and different livelihoods, people who I knew in my community. I also used walking ethnographies, which is the study of a physical space, to understand and identify the different places in the area that Muslim women could go to for help. Mental health in itself is a very intimate and very personal, delicate topic to talk about. So I decided to interview the Muslim women in duos, pairs, or groups. I wanted there to be this overarching theme of support, of sisterhood. So sisters in the literal sense, in terms of faith, but also in the literal sense. Women who have grown together and lived in North Kensington for majority of their lives, sisters by blood, and sisters by friendship, people who are comfortable talking about their experiences and thoughts on mental health. In the various interviews I conducted, I was really surprised to learn that there are, in fact, loads of places that Muslim women could go to. It's just that people don't know about them or don't want to know about them. There is still a huge stigma surrounding mental health, and people are worried about being vulnerable, being seen as weak for seeking help, for being weak as a wife or a daughter, a mother, grandmother, a woman with a career. There is still these irrational fears in the community that make people so afraid to seek out for help. And despite the multitude of services here, the general consensus in the community is that there aren't places for Muslim women to go to. There is Al Manar, which is the local mosque here in North Kensington. There are the different community hubs as well, such as Al Hassaniya for the Moroccan community and Medaya for the Somali community, which all three offer counselling services. There's also Community Living Well at St. Charles Hospital, which offers a more clinical side to therapy. These are just some of the places that Muslim women could go to, but again, there is still that stigma. A lot of women openly talked about how they wish that they could talk about mental health, but there is still that fear of judgment, a fear of it getting back into the community, being seen as crazy or misunderstood for being a Muslim woman in Britain. There is still a huge problematic misconception as well with mental health, that it's not as important as physical health, and that if you do go to these services, they won't help, and that mental health isn't for everyone. Mental health is a very difficult topic to talk about, and I really felt the weight of that whilst doing my research. However, interviewing the people that I know in my community and seeing them open up about such a sensitive topic, I think is a huge step in the right direction. I believe education is the best way forward. Really pushing and advocating for these workshops that educate and tackle the stigma surrounding mental health and help women to live a good and happy life, the good life. These spaces should provide support and events for Muslim women to go to and have activities and spaces where Muslim women can talk together and have fun, meet each other and feel better together. Being the community that I'm most familiar with, being a Muslim woman myself, there is still a lot of stigma in other communities in the area, in general, around the whole world. Different ethnicities and minority groups and genders still feel really underrepresented in the mental health space. So I think by starting to remove the stigma with education and setting up all these events and catering to all, I think would be the best way to help everyone have a good mental health. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that, Mesa. That was really amazing. So having concluded our individual research findings, we're now going to turn to Zara and Sarah, who will speak about the collective experience of the citizen social scientists on this project.
Thank you for that, Aisha. So I guess a major part of our experience as citizen scientists in the North Kensington community was in developing our research skills. So we developed our teamwork skills, communication skills, our problem-solving skills, and we also learned the importance of organizing our data and how that can impact our research later on. So we've entered a new world of research, and we've gotten to know one another, and we've learned how the effects of research and how it can not only change us and develop our own skills, but it can also help the community as it is right now in North Kensington. So we've gotten to know one another by going on excursions together, such as, for example, recently we went to the National Theatre to see the Grenfell play, and we've also completed quite a few team building exercises and have grown together.
One thing that stood out to me when we went to go and see the Grenfell play at the National Theatre was how research that we knew, research that we understood because we had lived here, we had experienced it, was being shown on a global level, was being shown to people outside of the community, and how much the people that were in the community were affecting and providing information to the wider community and wider communities so they could learn what was happening in our area. I found this was like the biggest part for me during the citizen science research, how much information we already actually knew about our area, how much information we knew about where we had grown up and what we actually knew we wanted to be part of our areas, and how personal we was able to create that research. We all picked topics that were really, really close to us, that we already had a lot of information on, and then was able to go out and do the research and really have an impact on our area from things that we had already known for such a long time, which is a really important part of what should be done in every community. Citizen science research allows those in the community to say what's needed and advocate for that, rather than someone from the outside coming in and saying, these are the resources that are available. So that's the main thing that I took away from becoming a citizen science. Thank you.
Wow, okay. I've got goosebumps. Can we just give everyone a round of applause? Okay, sorry, I should say my name's Hannah Sender, and I've been on the teaching team for this program, so that's why I'm here. I haven't just stood up. I'm going to invite the assistant scientists back on stage, please, and we're going to do a little round of Q&A. I'll take a few questions. Which mic is best to take? I'll take this one. Okay. Is this working? Yeah? Oh. Come on up. So I'll take a round of questions, and I'll ask that you please keep your questions, maybe comments, brief. We don't have that long. And then I'll invite the assistant scientists to answer them. Who would like to go first? Yeah?
I have to, oh no, my mom was saying stand up, but thank you so much. It was actually very informative. I actually had a question around the arts one. I wondered what the appetite was with the residents in the community, and whether there was a strong, I don't know, an appetite by them to uptake and kind of go to the galleries or share more work and things like that. What does that look like in here?
Okay, so that's more from the residents' perspective. I'll take a round and then you can think about your answer.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay. Anyone else got any questions? We'll go here first.
We have some amazing presenters here, don't we? It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I want to know if any of you knew each other before the start of this program, and if not, what it's been like to, work as a team over the last few months.
Did I see a hand at the back? Yes?
Hi everyone. Me and my colleague are from the Lancaster West neighbourhood team. Can we just say we're really impressed to see all you young people up there and taking part in these types of initiatives. I just wanted to ask, were you surprised by anything? I mean, obviously you've lived in the area, so you know it very well, but was there anything that was of surprise to you?
Oh, we've got questions as well. No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what do you think from all the different bits of research, like what's the most important role that you can now play in what happens next?
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, because we've got 4 questions, So one was about the uptake and interest in gallery spaces and creative spaces in North Kent. And then we had one about whether you knew one another and what it was like to get to know one another, about your anything surprising. And then, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your last question. What next? Okay, what next? Okay, fantastic. So, Coco, that one's for you, so I'll let you go first, and then maybe pick a question to respond to, okay?
Yeah, so by appetite you mean the residents and if they want to see the art displayed on the streets. That wasn't really my main focus of research. I more focused on, by interviewing 3 different people, trying to find out what the good life was for them as creatives. If you could, did you see the mural outside as you come here? So one of the artists I interviewed, he did that. So it was more like he did the murals. Graffiti-wise, I'm not sure what the residents think of that, but everything else that has something to commemorate or has a reason behind it, I know that most residents in North Kent do like seeing that. Yeah, thank you. The next question was...
Did we know each other? No, none of us knew each other, which is hilarious because we literally live like 10, 15 minutes away from each other, which we found out. I think that was maybe the best part about it, because with a lot of stuff, when you're learning something new, if you know the people that are also like with you, you kind of feel like, oh, do I need to do more or less? But we was all in this, brand new, didn't know anything, and we really got to know each other across time, and I feel like we really trusted each other, especially with our research. Like, we practiced this 5 or 6 times around each other, and so got really comfortable, and so we was able to lean on each other and get feedback and talk to each other about the research process and go through it together, which was really nice.
Does anyone else want to answer that question, or you could take one of the other questions? What next, or anything that surprised you?
I think I speak for myself and my colleagues when I say that the surprising thing is that the borough has so many things available for people to use, but it's just the fact that even though we're residents, we don't know anything about it. If we do, it's probably things from our parents or our mums and etc. It's never sort of like us finding the information and, you know, like seeing it and being able to use it. So I think it's just the abundance of available services, because there wasn't really a lack, I think, from our findings. It's just more that maybe the advertisement for it or the marketing isn't as strong, maybe not hitting as many people as it should be.
Yes. So for the last question, what's next and what the most important thing going forward is? So obviously we're still working on our sort of final outputs. We're working on some zines, which is a creative way to show our research as well as the reports we've been doing. I think the most important thing is sharing our data with the people, and a lot of us spoke about some incentives, and so you spoke about wanting to do a website. I was thinking of like programs and stuff for young people. I think feeding back to Westway and feeding back to the stakeholders like today and like with the report that we're doing, hopefully the research we've done is going to make some changes, and Westway can work with what we've done and hopefully take on some of our incentives, as well as the zines. We're going to also print out some physical copies and have them online as well. So it's good for everyone, including participants and everyone else, to just know what we've been doing.
And at the end of the session, you can also provide us with your email address. If you wish to learn more about it, you can contact us, or we could contact you about this.
Great. We do have time for another round of questions. So if anyone has any other questions? Yeah.
I have 2 questions actually. The first one was that when you went, you said the regeneration and it's for younger people. Is there a criteria for the younger people to get access to that? And the second question was, what are the challenges that you guys faced when you were doing this research?
I'll take one more question. Sorry. Yep. Okay. We'll come to you next.
I'd like to ask what you guys found the most interesting about your research.
Okay, so Zara, you have a very specific question, and then we'll pass the mic around.
So the criteria for our regeneration specifically is that obviously you have to be 18 plus, classed as an adult household member. It is social housing. You could move into the new builds privately if you wanted to, but the offer that is being given to young adults as adult household members is that they are 18 and they kind of fall under the same categories as their families do, so going into social housing. Do you want me to start? Yeah, I'll start. Challenges, I think, for me, it was definitely getting a hold of the housing association first of all, which I thought would be the easiest thing to do because I am a resident. I should know the key people in the housing association who to talk to, which was quite hard. I mean, with any housing association, it is hard to find out who to talk to, especially when you're doing research. They tend to think that you're snooping or that you're doing something that you shouldn't, and trying to convince them that it's positive work that I'm doing was kind of the biggest challenge. And then also doing something that we've never done before, interviewing people which I feel like are so seasoned in their roles, and I'm asking them questions about their jobs, and I'm only 22, so it was a big deal for me to ask those questions. So yeah, that was a big challenge for me.
I guess I'd say data. I didn't realize how much data we'd be collecting at the beginning, so we'd created some Google files to store all of our data, but after a while it started to become a bit unorganized. So we'd had to organize it all in a way that we'd all be able to access it, and in a way that nobody else could see anybody else's data if it was confidential. And I guess that made me appreciate data organizational skills.
For me, honestly, just to keep going, because essentially I was trying to find successful creatives living in North Ken, because that's what I aspire to one day be, and not really being able to find them because they're very well hidden. So when trying to find interviewees, I was like, who are the successful people? And then I found a few, heard about a few as well, and I was like, okay, so this is what they did. But also the main challenge was also when interviewing people, asking them what are the opportunities provided, and then having to really kind of dig for an answer. And yeah, the whole interviewing stage, I'd say, because interviewing is not really no one's born knowing how to interview someone. So learning how to do that and how to communicate with someone was a challenge, but fun.
Thank you. I wanted to answer the next one. What was the most interesting thing? I think speaking to professionals in the area and also speaking to young people, a lot of the people I spoke to, we all live in the same area, but I would have never spoken to them if it wasn't for this project, or I would have never spoken to them about this topic. Some of them were my friends, and it's like, we've never done that before. We've never sat down and had a discussion like that before. So I think it was really interesting learning new things, speaking to the professionals who, again, I wouldn't have had that opportunity to speak to them before. And I just learned so much from them. And I'm just grateful that it feels like an honor to be able to get these answers from people and for people to trust you with that information. So that was what I found really interesting.
I agree with Aisha in terms of the sense that it's such an honor to represent your community and do research and amplify your voice and the voices of others. I think the most interesting part was probably preparing all of this, because it's the first time I've ever done an event like this, let alone co-host. So, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so that was the most interesting thing for me, like setting up this event and getting to tell you guys. And I'm really thankful that everyone came, because it's really an honor to speak to everyone.
Hi. For me, it was actually meeting the residents and the professional workers, the community managers, and they were so generous with their time and their history, and I learned so much. And I want to sort of follow up with some of the other interviews I didn't have, because it really informed me about my community, which some of the things I didn't know, and it gave me the opportunity to present it to all of you.
Okay. Let's have one more round of applause. I'm sorry, I'm so proud. Thank you. So let's take a short break. We'll be back in 5 minutes. And we're going to rearrange some stuff on the stage, and then we're going to be having a panel discussion, hosted, of course, by our citizen scientists. Okay, go and have some drinks. Chill.
So I invite you to come back and join us to hear the citizen scientists ask some of the community representatives the most important questions of this evening. And so, hi, my name is Savara, and I'm part of the teaching team at UCL, supporting with this amazing project. And I've had an absolute honor to get to know all the citizen scientists and just sitting there so proud watching them all speak. So we would now like to introduce you to the panel. We will have Veena Dupa, who is the current CEO of the Westway Trust, Marwan El-Nahi, the local RBKC Labour Councillor for the Nottingdale Ward in North Kensington and trustee of the Westway Trust, and Gigi Yaqub, who is the community manager from the Westway. They will all be joining us on stage for a question and answer panel to discuss how research can support the future of communities. And I will also invite Coco, Sarah and Mesa to pose all the questions, so please come and join me. Paula, sorry.
So, I'd like to first ask Gigi this question. What do you think supports and what prevents North Kensington's residents from living prosperous lives?
Hinders, I think, prosperous lives, I think, is probably similar to what we have in lots of communities. So inequality, discrimination, crime, displacement, temporary housing. But for me, I think what helps is community support. So I'm a facilitator for a parenting program called Strengthening Families, Strengthening Communities. And it's a program from 5 years old till 18 years old. And one of the things that we used to teach on the program was increasing your safety net for your children. And that safety net would start closer to home, so family, and then it would be your neighbours and other sort of community support that you'd have, like drop-in centres, and building that support, because I think that's what will then provide the children later on with opportunities. So you'll have more activities for them to do, which will keep them busy and keep them away from getting involved in other things. But it will also then increase their opportunities for maybe employment, training. So for me, it's community support is what helps, which is a lot of what you've said, and just making sure that people know it's out there. A lot of the people were first generation parents, so they didn't know that, so they'd stick to sort of their cohort of friends. So it was about us just trying to tell them to widen that net.
Thank you, Gigi.
So this next question is to Vinu. So I wanted to ask what the value of citizen science is.
Well, that's a great question. But before I answer it, can I just say that, honestly, what a credit to North Kensington you all are. It's so brilliant to see you. And when I think about the future and I think about the way you've done this project and the way you've risen to the challenges and all of that, it really makes my heart sing because it really gives me faith in young people.
Oh, thank you so much on behalf of all of us.
So this project, I met Saffron many years ago, but 24 months ago, we sat and we talked about citizen science and what that might look like. And I can tell you, it didn't look like what we saw tonight, so that was really surprising and wonderful. I don't really know what I expected. So I would say that citizen science is a surprising project. It's one that has uncovered topics that resonate. So anyone who lives in North Kensington will hear the topics, that, will recognise the topics, whether it's about regeneration or skills or mental health particularly. I think it's uncovered topics that can go further and that can really help policy development. So especially for Aisha and Mesa, we're doing a mental health roundtable in November, and it'd be great to have you come and speak at it. Knowing that there are people out there who have skills that can be used by organisation in their research, and I can think of at least 2 projects where we're badly in need of the skills you have. And we want to encourage local residents to be part of the organisation in our community centring. So I think it's been a surprising, unexpected project that's just uncovered talent and useful talent, as well as imparting skills. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's my turn to ask a question now. Can I ask you a question? Actually, why do you think it's important for citizens' voices to be heard in the neighbourhood?
Okay, first of all, I need to add one thing before I answer, if you allow me just for a few seconds, because this project is very close to my heart. I knew Corny when she first came to us to discuss healthy homes in the borough. And you mentioned Grenfell, because that's what initiated the change in North Kensington to empower our residents. And that's what actually brought me in politics, in the local politics. I lived in the area for 36 years, and as a lecturer at Brunel University, and I'm a graduate. I finished my doctorate at Brunel. And after 2018, I became local councillor, engaged fully, because we've been neglected. And there is a lot of things we mentioned about talents in the area. So as an academic, I thought, what's going on here? Why there is no recognition for our local talents? Without going too much into details there, we need leadership. And I'm really grateful to Venu as our chief executive of Westway Trust, taking this project on and working very closely with Saffron and Corny to make it happen. Without that leadership, this won't be here. And without the participant, they've seen the, I'm not going to mention individual names, but the way you came across. The word together came several times in your conversation. Together, being together is empowering. Being together, it will bridge gaps. So the way you mentioned about decision, what next, and that's what I want to see in our citizens, especially young adults, to take the leadership, to be there in the decision-making process we do in the council that affect your life. And there are so many decisions happening in the council that, and there is a mention, we are the richest borough in the world, not in the UK only. And the way the allocation of resources in a very unequal way is happening. So this exercise and the participant today, they gave me that hope. And by the way, soon after my election in 2018, I organized a conference, youth conference, a young person conference, the first one in RBKC. It's called No Limits, Untap Your Potential. And today I've seen unlocking that potential. So we are in the same page in your research topics. And to conclude here, giving a voice in the decision making, understanding what are these decision makers doing on your behalf. So I really welcome these participants today to shadow us in the decision. I sit on the investment committee in the council. 2 years ago, I was chair of the Adult Social Care and Health Select Committee, where I had Brunel, the university team, discussing mental health impacts on our community. They came and they gave a presentation in the council. This is new to the council, involving academia. And now to finish off, that I'm really grateful to Saffron and Connie for engaging with us and being involved with us. And hopefully this is the beginning of the journey. So what next? It will be a conference. What next? There will be some activity workshops. Reach out to us. We have money, local councillors, the council, the Westway Trust, and above all, I mean, here we have our chief executive staying with us to take us through this journey in terms of effectively working closely with the council and with us. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for inspiring evening, honestly. It's fantastic. Thank you.
A very big thank you to our panel. Everybody, could I get a round of applause for our panelists, please? It was really interesting to get an insight of all the things that you guys said, so a huge thank you. I would now like to welcome Connie and Saffron, who will be taking over the next segment for us.
You're welcome to stay seated. So we're going to open it up to the audience. Okay, so keep you in the hot seats. So thanks everyone for sticking around for this. So it's really lovely. Of course, it's always lovely feedback, but especially from people who have supported us and taken this seriously and really embedded it in their ways of working and thinking through what it means to the future. So just in this last section, we just wanted to open it up to you and to see if you had any further questions, but also to hear maybe a little bit about your experiences in this borough or in other places where you live, if there's something that resonates with you, if you want to ask any questions of our panelists. And so this is your moment, or things that you think, you know, what should we have been doing? What did we miss? That's also really important. So we'll do a similar thing. So we'll take a couple of comments and then we'll ask responses as needed.
Hi. Yeah, that was really inspiring. So the Caribbean historian C.L.R. James celebrated his 80th birthday pretty much in this room and gave a speech in which he said that Ladbroke Grove was the most creative place in the world, and the only thing limiting it was that local services were not listening to the less privileged residents. We heard today the exact same themes echoed many, many years later. So I wonder, moving forward through that, it's really exciting to hear that there's ideas for things like this kind of conference. Are there any other ways that panelists can see this clear barrier that's coming up again and again and again, being something that can concretely, not just for the amazing young people in this room, but more broadly, be challenged?
We can take a couple more questions and then come back. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you for the presentations on the panel. It was really wonderful. This question is for the citizen scientists. Do you have any tips or advice for other people who want to become citizen scientists?
Okay. Oh, okay. I've got one here, and then we'll come back. Yeah.
Hi, I think it's slightly linked to the previous question. I was just curious, as young people, how did you find out about citizen scientists? And do you think there could have been other ways for other young people to find out? Or do you feel the methods of communication were really good?
Okay, we'll start with that round, and then we can take another. Who would like to go first?
I can answer the question about, was it how we felt as citizens? Can you repeat the question, please? Okay. So, to be honest, when we began, I don't think many of us knew what citizen science was, but we slowly got introduced and exposed to the world. I guess the reason why I found out about the position was through local contact, so people who'd lived in the area, and me having been a part of the area for most of my life, I was aware that there was the opportunity of citizen science there. But I guess saying that, it's only really accessible to the people in the area. So anybody who doesn't really live in the area and doesn't know about the opportunities available probably won't be able to get into it. So maybe advertising it in a wider way. So maybe using social media more, or just spreading it through word of mouth and snowballing it. Maybe more people will be able to get involved, and then they'll probably become super interested in it as well.
Yeah, I agree with Sarah. When I first started, I had no idea what citizen science was. I just saw that there was research and this community, and I was like, oh my God, it's my local area, let me get involved. So that's how I found out about it and what I thought. I think it was, I have a group chat that's like residents in the local area, and it's got like 700 members on it. And I saw a post about the program. So that's how I found out about it. But it's an academy under UCL, so if you go on the website, I'm sure you can find more information or like keep up to date with any other things that they have, but I'm pretty sure they're expanding and growing in the community.
So I think there was a question about how can we get more community voice. I think that it isn't a question of any one thing, although role models who can show us how to do it are really important. But I think it's a question of anyone who has any means of chipping away at the existing power structures in terms of asking questions, throwing some light in, scrutinising, persuading, influencing. Anyone who has any opportunity to do that, you should do it, because you won't get anywhere if you sit quiet and just be a good girl. You know, we were always told as children, just sit there quietly, be good, and speak when you're spoken to. But that doesn't work. So I would really encourage people to speak up. It doesn't have to be vicious or nasty, but it just has to be asking questions. And hopefully, if you have responsible public bodies, if you have people who want to make a difference, they might just hear something which will go, okay, yeah, I can do something in my role, and you can help, or bring someone else, but who can I connect you with? So I think it's about connectivity, it's about togetherness, it's about keeping your ear to the ground and constantly being brave enough to chip away. Gigi's involved in community engagement the whole day, so maybe she has something to say on this subject.
I think you said it all. I think it comes back to what I was saying before. It's community, and it's not because I'm community engagement, but it is all about community and community support. And a lot of what you said was we have to physically go out there and look for it, but it is there. And once you've found it, keep a hold of it, pass the word on, speak to others. The more voices there are, the less chance there are of ignoring you.
I just want to add one thing in addition to what has been said now, is really for our young adults to be in the decision-making process, to be there, instead of decision being made on their behalf for them. It's not a matter of co-design or passing on the information for the decision makers to be decided for, especially regarding youth provisions. The young adults, they need to be there. In the space is there. So this exercise will empower them to make that decision, to take that responsibility, to be a trustee, co-optees on organization, to be there with these organizations. They are receiving funding on their behalf, and then they decide where these funding should spend. It's not just being on the receiving end. So that's what hopefully this journey will result into our role models here to take that step forward and know that there are supports for them, and there are supports for them.
Yeah, just on that point, obviously, along the way, everybody needs support. And I know that V's been here tonight, and she's been offering support to the group. And so that needs a mention too, because everybody needs someone to turn to ask advice or get encouragement.
I was going to say, in terms of my involvement, I've done lots of volunteering and work in the community and wanted to develop my research skills. And I know with my area was West Kensington, I've learnt so much, and I want to continue to help the community, all people in the community, not just young people, sort of more older people like myself, because I think it's really important for the communities to reflect everyone's needs and to offer resources and provision so we can all have a good quality life in these times.
Hello there. Thank you for this very, successful research that you did. And I believe it was a real good research that was done. And the thing is, my belief is that it should be expanded and the research should be implemented, the results. So I wanted to know, what's the next step that's going to take place regarding this research. Thank you.
Thank you. And there was one more question. Yeah.
Hi. I came in quite late because I didn't know this was happening, so sorry if I asked the wrong question. Just following up on that woman's question, I noticed that the panel were mainly made up of females. Do you have plans to open it up for other people in the local community, like young men and stuff like that, moving forward? And if so, how do you plan on communicating that?
Thank you very much.
When we first, when we did advertise this out, we advertised it to everyone. It wasn't open to just females or just young people. We actually wanted a cohort. We wanted a very diverse and mixed cohort. Throughout the process, some people have dropped out due to personal reasons or, issues that they had. So there would have been at least one male on the panel, but that was, due to unfortunate circumstances. But I'm not sure if we're planning to do another one in the future, but it was always open to everyone.
I wonder whether the citizen scientists spoke to any men or young men who in your research were interested in the course you were doing.
So I didn't speak to any young men in particular, but when I spoke to the mental health professionals, we did actually discuss programs that they had for young men. So I spoke to a talking therapist at the NHS. She works at St. Charles in the Community Living Well department. And she said that there is a disparity between the people who try to access mental health. So obviously, young boys particularly, a lot of them don't feel like, obviously, there's a stigma around mental health and young boys accessing it, but men's suicide rates are the highest. And so they do see that, and they have already started doing incentives and programs. There is a lot of sports clubs, a lot of youth clubs. There are talking therapies and group therapies for boys and young men in particular. I think it's just up to them to make the first step and to try and defeat the stigma of sort of, you know, men don't cry and men don't care about their feelings. They have to take that step to find the help available to them, but also, as we said, to raise awareness and maybe speaking to boys in schools, maybe telling them this is what is available for you, and just raising awareness. So I didn't get the chance, unfortunately, to speak to them, but we did talk about the resources available to them. And I know the other citizen social scientists, so with the housing and regeneration, obviously that's also offered to young men. So, yeah.
I wanted to add specifically about getting them into research, because I know all of us were like, I don't really know what citizen science is. And I think with the stigma in young boys, especially in our area, because they are more focused on the physical aspect. So even after Grenfell, there is a football team that came out of that to help with their mental health. And so they look more to the physical side of it. I think when we're talking about getting them into research, it's to go to them rather than advertising. Like I found it on the website because I know people who talk about Westway a lot, and I'm already quite like involved in what's happening in Westway, but young men aren't. And it's because they tend to not come out of their bubbles and come out of their shells and come out of their little pockets of community. We have to go towards them and go and find them to go and bring and say, okay, cool. Yes, we know that you want to access these things like they did after Grenfell, they do, and there are loads of services for them, but how they can now have impact in what's done afterwards. And speak to a lot of the men who are running those teams and are running those places to say, oh, there's this thing that is accessible, and then doing that. I think that would be probably the best way to get in touch with the young men in the area.
Anything about next steps? Oh, Connie can do that.
No, definitely. Thank you.
I'll give you this.
No, just an observation, taking that challenge forward. Yeah, I will share your concern because we need to be open, and we are open, I think. But what we've seen here is more encouragement. So, yeah, we'll take that on board and we'll see how the team can move forward with that proposition, yeah, definitely. But thank you so much for every one of you. They've done wonder. I was so impressed, to be honest. And I'm surprised, which is good. Thank you.
Extremely loud, sorry. So just to finish up, I just wanted to say a final few words. So first of all, we've said it again and again this evening, but this has been an absolute privilege to work on this project. Of course, with these citizen scientists who, you know, have all very much earned that title. They've all been phenomenal. But also to work alongside a really amazing group of people who've been able to make this happen. So I think Saffron and I both have sort of, I don't know, deep-rooted thanks to go to Venu and Marwin. So our partnerships with them going back a long way. So that's really facilitated this over, you know, over lockdowns, over delays, over all kinds of other types of things. We'd really like to say thank you to V, John Baptiste, who's been our wellbeing support. You can imagine that some of this research was extremely intense, and also just the nature of getting involved in something that you don't really know what it is that you've signed up for is a very intense and full-on experience. We also, as was mentioned earlier, went on a group trip to the National Theatre to see the Grenfell production, which was amazing, but also, you know, really a deeply emotional experience. So we've all been through a lot, I think, so we really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. I also want to say a massive thank you to Soraya, who put on this evening. So she's coordinated all of this. She's been the one liaising with everyone, sorting out all the tech, and generally just doing it so smoothly. And we're also wishing her very best of luck for a big day tomorrow as well. So big interview coming up. So good luck for that. And you've done this despite also preparing for that. So thank you so much. And massive thanks to the tech support, to Sam, and to Kevin, who are recording this for posterity. And so we'll also make this available to anyone. So thanks to Gigi, who's been there every day of this project, responding to our many and varied requests, which have ranged from, we need new tables, to where's our lunch, to you need to find us some people to interview. So she, at all levels, has unwaveringly put up with us and our questions and our requests. So we definitely couldn't have done this without Gigi. So thank you so much, and to all of you for coming. Many of you have contributed to the research. You've been participants, you've supported, you've facilitated. So thank you so much. We now have some refreshments we're going to put out. There's drinks available. There is a cash bar at the back if you would like a drink. So please come and chat to us. We'd love to talk to you more, and thank you again for joining us this evening.